You guys, thank you
Wow.
for coming. Yeah, it's a lot
impressive.
different when there's people out here, huh?
Hello.
Thanks. How are you guys doing this morning?
How could I not be doing well? This is amazing.
There's certainly a lot of energy and excitement in the room. But,
Absolutely, super excited.
Matt and James, can you introduce yourselves to these fine folks out here?
Sure. I'm Matt Morris. I'm an 18-year veteran at Blizzard and StarCraft. For StarCraft 2, I started off as a lead level designer for Wings of Liberty and Heart of the Swarm. And for Legacy of the Void, I took on more of a role of a lead campaign designer, but it was more specific for the story mode and the game systems that we have there. Shortly after that, I started working on our new co-op experience.
So I haven't been at Blizzard for 18 years like Matt. I've only been at Blizzard 7 years, which, given the longevity of a lot of our developers, still makes me a noob. But I'm here because I'm the lead writer of StarCraft 2, Legacy of the Void, and I also oversee a department called Creative Development. It really works closely with Chris Metzen, trying to bring a whole bunch of new media types for the StarCraft universe and Warcraft universe, and just kind of explore new places we could take our IPs.
And I mean, when you talk about the StarCraft universe, you're basically talking about 7 years of history, right? 17, excuse me, years of history. And that's not only incredible that the story has gone on that long, but it has been an epic the whole way there. So as both veterans of StarCraft, can you just kind of give us an overview of sort of the universe as it stands?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you haven't played StarCraft, I think what's really exciting is it's this rich science fiction universe that really chronicles the events of first contact between 3 super powerful races, and the history and the fallout of what happens with that. And so, quick cliff notes, the races are the Terrans, the descendants of prisoners who were sent out in prison ships years before and have colonized the world and really become kind of scrappy frontiersmen and women who have been plagued by corrupt government after corrupt government. There's Zerg, who are the consistently evolving, all-consuming xenomorphic race.
Also best race. Just
are they? Yeah.
Well, according to me.
All right. Yeah, and so the Zerg, of course, have consumed world after world in the StarCraft universe, and are really bound by a hive mind. And then there's the race that you're going to be hearing a lot about today, just because this is the final chapter of StarCraft and really focuses on them, is the Protoss.
Right.
And the Protoss is an ancient, powerful psionic race that once stood as stewards of the galaxy, seeing themselves as the pinnacle of life in the universe. But after the events of StarCraft 1, their homeworld has been shattered and taken by the Zerg, and so they're now few of number and really trying to put together their civilization again with hopes of one day maybe retaking what they'd lost.
I mean, Matt, in terms of specifically StarCraft as it relates to science fiction.
Yeah, I mean, StarCraft is a very specific brand of sci-fi. I mean, there's this massive space saga, right? And there's these complex characters, and they have these complex relationships, and there's all these layers of storytelling, and this whole game has been set on this backdrop of this constant conflict, which has just made this StarCraft very epic.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually a really good point. I mean, it is a sweeping war game and a sweeping war story in many ways with these big galactic events. But at the end of the day, I think when we craft stories in the StarCraft universe, it always comes down to the individual. It's how does the individual's choices or relationships shape the course of history. So whether that's Jim and Sarah's love story and the cascading events that fall out from that, or if it's Tassadar's noble sacrifice at the end of StarCraft 1 for the benefit of his people. It's really it comes down to the characters and their choices.
Yeah, so the characters in these choices who have certainly sort of taken us through, sometimes good choices, sometimes bad choices. That's
a lot of bad choices.
Yeah, but who are some of the main characters then that we're going to be seeing going into Legacy of the Void?
Sure. I mean, if you aren't familiar with a lot of our characters, there's Jim Raynor, who's kind of the prototypical Terran. Jim was a former outlaw who got a great shot at redemption by becoming a marshal. And in the events of StarCraft 1, he ends up getting sucked into a civil war following a charismatic freedom fighter named Arcturus Mengs, with the goal of really, hopefully, remaking the Terran government into a great, noble place.
Right.
He met the love of his life, Sarah Kerrigan, a psionic assassin. But from that point on, things went kind of downhill for Jim. It's been a rough few years.
It has been.
It's been tough. He ends up getting betrayed by Arcturus Mengsk, who he believed deeply in, and he ends up having the love of his life left by Arcturus Mengsk to die. And so he thought he lost her, only to find out something worse, that she instead wasn't dead after all, but turned into the monstrous but all-powerful Queen of Blades, the leader of the Zerg Swarm.
Right. And of course, Kerrigan like reunites the swarm per se.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, so at this point, Kerrigan, she pushes aside this complex relationship that she has with Jim Raynor that James just explained, because she discovers this ancient evil, right? And she realizes this evil is the biggest threat this universe has ever seen. And so she takes, and this is a bigger threat than actually that we've ever seen with the Terran and the Protoss and the Zerg, even through SC1. And so she rounds up the swarm and she goes off hunting for this evil.
And of course, that was the Terran characters and the Zerg characters, but I think there's going to be some major key players in the Protoss.
Sure, yeah, no, totally. So there's going to be Zeratul, who in many ways, like you were just talking about, Zeratul is also aware of this prophecy, of this coming of this ancient, horrible, galactic, omnipotent being. And he's desperately, he's seen as kind of a heretic by his people for believing in this crazy mumbo-jumbo, but he's right. And so we've really seen a lot of Zeratul over the last few games, and you'll see a lot of Zeratul in the coming game as the prophecy's finally coming to fulfillment. But it's really important to touch on Artanis as well, because Artanis is the hero of the Legacy of the Void campaign. Artanis, if you played Brood War, Artanis was the Protoss hero during that game. And Artanis is the young leader who's been charged with trying to find a way to unite his people, to find a way to bring these disparate groups together and give them purpose. And so at the start of this game, he's found that purpose, and that's in reclaiming their lost glory and taking back Aiur.
So, a lot of characters, a lot of time. We didn't have like an animated time frame per se to show you, but there's been a lot of story and time covered in the StarCraft.
There has, and we know it. It's been 17 years of building great games that are always rich in story and tons of other story content. And so we know there's a lot there. It doesn't mean you need to understand it all to really love StarCraft or get into it. But for those that do, we made a call to a good friend of ours. And because we believe he could create something that could kind of catch everybody up to the events of the last few games in a really in-depth way. So if you guys want, why don't we check it out?
Yeah, let's check this out. This is sort of like previously on StarCraft.
Roll it.
I'm the man who's gonna kill you someday.
Let's spread a little mayhem.
Yippee-ki-yay.
Trigger fingers all itchy.
Yeah. Carbot, creative mind, artistic wonder.
And
I love it.
100% lore accurate.
Yeah, and,
Exactly
I mean,
the way it happened.
Yeah, I mean, close. You get it's
Yeah,
the general
yeah.
sense. That was fantastic, Carbot. Thank you. So let's focus specifically on Legacy of the Void, right? Already game-changing for StarCraft 2 as a standalone. Of course, there's already tons of bold experimentation happening now in the beta. And we've got a bunch of new modes, one of those, of course, being co-op. So I know many are looking forward to co-op in Legacy of the Void. Can we talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. StarCraft is co-op is coming to StarCraft for the first time with Legacy of the Void. You and your friend will play cooperatively against the AI on these campaign-style missions, where each of you will choose a unique commander, and each commander has a unique set of units and abilities and co-op powers.
So is, I mean, is like the commander and sort of the control of it similar to like what we'd see in Heroes of the Storm?
No, not really. Each race has a unique trait. So if you were to choose a Terran commander, you're going to deploy a massive war machine onto the battlefield to do tons of damage. And if you were to choose a Zerg commander, then you get to actually play that particular commander on the battlefield, much like you saw in Heart of the Swarm with Kerrigan. If you were to choose a Protoss commander, you're going to control the Spear of Dune. And what that is a giant arc ship that's way up in high orbit, and the player is going to call down global powers anywhere onto the map.
So, I mean, I assume then, like, we still have sort of the same base building mechanics that we all have grown to love, and there's just this extra at the top. It's not necessarily like a MOBA per se.
Well, it's still a classic RTS. Much like you've seen in the campaign, you're still going to be gathering resources. You're still going to be building more advanced structures to build more advanced units. But what's different really here is that depending on the commander you chose, the different type of units that you unlock and what you get to play with. And this really feeds into combinations of various commanders that really synergize as far as the unit composition.
So then, I mean, do we have like some sort of persistence to the characters? Are they leveling, the commanders leveling up as we go along?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, just like in campaign, after you beat a mission, you're going to get a reward. We recommend really for people to come in and check out the campaign first, because most of these commanders that you're going to see come from the campaign. And just like in the campaign, when you beat it, you're going to unlock something else.
Right.
In co-op, you're actually going to earn experience points. And as you gain more and more experience, your commander is going to level up. And as he levels up, he's going to unlock more units, more powers, more upgrades. It's really packed with a lot of fun stuff here.
And now, already has been announced as Raynor, Kerrigan, and Artanis during Gamescom, but we've got to assume there's more.
Absolutely.
There's
Today,
more.
at TwitchCon, for the
more.
very first time, we're going to show you our next 3 commanders. So our first commander is a Terran commander, Lieutenant Rory Swan from Wings of Liberty. He's going to be our high-tech commander. He's going to build factory units. He doesn't have a barrack, so he has no infantry units. What's also really cool is he has this giant laser drill that he's going to call onto the battlefield, and this thing does damage anywhere on the map. And also, he's got cooldowns, too, so he's going to call down some warbots. Our next commander is Zagara. She's our Zerg commander. You will get to play her on the battlefield. She is a very unique play style. She's really built around the idea of just building tons and tons of units. As you can kind of see here, she's, this is her out there. She's got our units. She's tacking on one of our missions here. This is just kind of a little bit of the gameplay footage of what we kind of see in the Allied commanders, right? So you have your Protoss commanders there, and you got your Zerg. You guys are working together over the mission objectives. These are just more examples of this particular one. There's Vorzun. You can't really see it here, but there's a cloaking field here that your allies come into, and they get benefited from all that.
I can definitely tell like the battles are going to be even more epic.
Oh, absolutely. This is all based on the stuff you've seen in the
Totally.
campaign. So if you played our missions, you've seen those objectives. This is really built to have both players come in here and really just try to figure out how you guys want to merge your commanders together in the armies you want to build, and really just beat up the AI here.
so as far as like the commanders are concerned, and just a quick question. So like obviously you're playing Protoss, so you've got your own commander. I'm playing Zerg. I've got my own commander. There will be some really interesting sort of, I guess, like compatibility with a lot of them.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the way we
yeah.
built these commanders is that, each of these commanders have a very specific set of unit types, right? So they're not going to have the full arsenal that they would see in multiplayer, but they will see a lot of the stuff they see in single player. And so you and your friend, you might want to say, hey, I want to be Raynor because I really love calling down the Hyperion, right? This thing comes down and does a lot of damage across the map, and he can warp around. And the other guy's like, hey, I want to play Swan because I love my factory units, right? I want to play with this massive laser drill. And so we've really done that for each of these commanders. They have that one little stick about them that really sets them apart from the other commanders.
It's really fun seeing how like who those characters are expressed in gameplay, right? Like the way Rory Swan plays is exactly what you would expect from the guy that has kind of a metal hand, and
Right.
same with Raynor and Vorzu and all these characters.
Excellent. So obviously, I want to ask because we've been talking about Protoss,
Sure,
a lot
sure.
of focus on with Legacy of the Void, and you did mention that Protoss was retaking their homeworld from the Zerg.
That's
but
the goal.
there maybe should be a focus on like the larger threat of the universe. I don't know. What do you?
Yeah, I mean, sure, an omnipotent god with a focus on destroying the universe and remaking it in his image sounds like it's bad.
It sounds kind of bad.
It sounds bad. No, and it is. It is actually bad because it's completely legitimate. He's back. The problem is not everybody believes he's back. I mean, even the name Amon kind of feels like an ancient relic from the mythic past for the Protoss. So it's really only a few characters that are clued in, and that's Zeratul, Raynor, and Kerrigan. And so really, Artanis' focus at this point is really finding a way to unite the Dark Templar and the Light Templar and the various tribes on Shakuris, which is the world he's on, and bring them together. And the one thing that they've always found commonality on is Ire, this thing that's like the jewel of their civilization, where they built like this incredible ornate society. And so at the start of the campaign, he has risen the greatest fleet of Protoss vessels ever assembled, called the Golden Armada, and given them common cause and common purpose, and brought them back to Ire to hopefully shape their destiny and reclaim everything they'd lost. So yes, there's a giant threat out there. He just doesn't fully know how real it is just yet, but
ignorance is bliss.
He will find
maybe.
out.
Yeah,
I
okay.
assure you, he will find out that it is real.
So I like to pry a little bit, and we saw a short snippet of a really, really cool animated short that you guys showed. I believe it was at the most recent WCS finals.
Right.
So when can we expect to see the full version?
Today.
Right now.
We've brought, yes, today. We have brought the short film called Reclamation, short animated film for Twitch and TwitchCon and the community. And we're ready to debut it. I should give a little just context on it, just so that you guys know. We did a series of shorts for World of Warcraft, for Warlords of Draenor, called Lords of War. And it was really an opportunity for us to tell more story, but really contextualize the warlords of that game and give people an opportunity to really imprint on them more. And we really enjoyed making it, and the community seemed to really love it. So once we started looking at seriously launching Legacy of the Void, we also realized that there hasn't been a Protoss campaign since Brood War.
Right.
And some of the stuff that makes the Protoss just so unique and so awesome are their esoteric concepts that define their culture kit. And so we wanted to make a short that could help speak to all that, so people could just watch it, dive in and understand who they were, but also understand who Artanis, our hero, was and how he thinks. So we got Doug Gregory, an incredibly talented director who directed the